video games where you defend yourself against hostile Martians. He's been playing his imaginary Space Invaders game for about 45 minutes now. Next up, we have Sideshow Bob. I'm not really sure why he's earned this title, but he doesn't seem to mind it. Old Bob spends a large part of his day yelling at himself in the mirror. I'm unsure about what he and his likeness are arguing about. It's pretty hard to understand them when they get all worked up. Whatever it is, they're fairly serious about it. I could go on to tell you about the kid who believes he's Hitler, or the shyster from Vegas who gives us a play-by-play rundown of all the sports as he watches them. You probably get the picture. So I sit, and I breathe. At first I try to drown it out. I try to ignore it. I try to let it all go. As I meditate, I recall a story that I read a few years ago. Once upon a time, a man had developed a routine meditation schedule that he was proud of and that he was sure would bring much merit. One day, while he was deep in his meditation, he was disturbed by someone seeking his advice. Upset at being bothered by this interruption, he got up, flung open the door, and shouted, "What do you want? Can't you see I'm meditating on loving kindness?" This is so like me. I become so angry at my own inability to stay focused. I'm upset at what I consider any intrusion into my quiet time. I want to get up and go to the door and yell, but I don't. I look out the glass and I see people. I see people just like me. We're different in countless ways, but we're still the same. Sideshow Bob isn't the only one fighting with himself. I scream into the mirror of my own mind daily. Just as the lifer is battling his imaginary aliens, I am also at war with my emotions. We all daydream at times of being in a better place, a place of happier days. They all miss their families, their homes, maybe even their jobs. They miss walking in the grass, looking up into the sky. They miss feeling the sun shine on them on a warm spring day. They feel lonesome and angry, love and regret. We are all suffering, not just from confinement, but from ignorance. I turn away from the door with a sense of peace. All is the same, but somehow it is different. It's still loud, but it doesn't seem quite so noisy. Brian Taylor's a frequent contributor to our newsletter, which we publish from the submissions from prisons all over the country, mostly from this region. These are the moments. These are the moments that lead to a change. And these moments come from sharing the Dharma on a personal level with those who are suffering. And I'll always be grateful to Kayleen for creating this project. Thank you.
I do want to mention we do have some newsletters over on the table if people would like to take copies of them. I want to point out that when the men come to the prison, they lose everything. Their material possessions are taken away, even down to their clothing. They wear gray pants, white shirts. Can you imagine being placed in an 8x10 cell with someone you don't know? Someone who might be violent or even suffering mental problems. They are issued a number and they are addressed by their last names usually, but their identification depends on that number. Many times they lose their families. I'm often contacted by an inmate's family member who wishes the inmate to know that someone has died in their family. But the family member is quick to say, don't give them any information about me. Don't give them my phone number. Don't let them know who called. I want nothing to do with them anymore. And if there's a death in the family, part of my job is to do death notifications to the inmates. If there's a death in the family, what the institution does is they consider them a threat, because with deaths comes anger a lot of times. So imagine if you have just lost your wife And what they do is they put you in DSAG. They put you in the hole. You're there by yourself, no friends, nothing to do, no books to read. You're just there in isolation for up to like maybe a month because you lost a family member. All inmates have jobs within the prison. And while some jobs pay a little bit more, most of them pay $8.50 a month. That's $8.50 a month. With the $8.50, they're required to buy their own shampoo, deodorant, toothpaste. You know, you see a lot about inmates being bald. They can't afford the shampoo. They can afford the shaving equipment, so they shave their heads. And not only does the products cost the same as on the outside, it costs even more. For example, if it's $2 for a tube of toothpaste on the outside, it's $2.15 on the inside. That 15 cents goes to a fund that supports religious programs and sports programs, etc. It's called a canteen fund. So this brings me to a story about one of the inmates. His name was Rick. And Rick was very poor. He depended on the $8.50 a month. He had no extra. He had no one putting money on his books. And he started attending our group up in Bowling Green. And he was with our group about 6 months, very serious. And along came the Christmas season. And Rick got very silent. After the Christmas season, he came up and he told me a story. He said, I put pennies away and nickels away and save up. And he said, I started buying hard candy. And I bought a couple bags of hard candy. He said, then on Christmas Day, he said, I went out in the yard. And anybody who passed me, I gave them a piece of candy. He said, the toughest man in the whole camp came walking by. And Rick said, I handed him a piece of candy. And he said, all he got in return was a glare. So the next day, Rick went out, and here comes this tough guy. He walks right up to him, and he says, no one has ever given me anything in my life. Maybe Rick's actions changed the tough man just a little bit. After all, I did come and kind of say thank you. So this is just another indicator that every action can ripple out and create many effects. Some we judge as good, some we judge as bad. It's also an indicator that our prison groups inside are affecting change. It's We're constantly looking for volunteers to go in prisons, to do groups. We also do like a homeless bag project where we make backpacks and we fill them with things for homeless people. We have need for people to fill boxes to send clothes to inmates coming out who have no clothes. All they have is a prison issue. We have a book project where we're gathering books and mailing into different institutions across the country. So if you'd like to volunteer and become part of this, we'd love to have you. Thank you.